For weeks, the hospital staff had noticed something strange. Every night, just as the last shift of the day ended, a pack of dogs would gather outside the hospital's entrance. They sat quietly, watching the glass doors as if they were waiting for someone. At first, the staff dismissed it as a coincidence, stray dogs looking for warmth or food. But these dogs weren't scavenging. They weren't aggressive. They just waited. One evening, Nurse Emily, who had been working at the hospital for years, decided to investigate. Her curiosity had grown too strong to ignore. As she walked outside, she noticed the dogs perk up, their eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place. They weren't just waiting. They were hoping. She hesitated, then softly asked, "Who are you waiting for?" The dogs whined and wagged their tails slightly, but they stayed put. Emily sighed and turned to go back inside when she heard a weak bark. She turned around and saw an old golden retriever limping forward. Her heart ached at the sight of him. She knelt down and gently stroked the dog's head. That's when one of the security guards approached her. "You don't know, do you?" he asked softly. "Know what?" Emily frowned. "These dogs belong to a homeless man named Charlie," the guard explained. "He used to sleep near the back alley, and every day, he'd feed these dogs with whatever little food he had. He loved them like family. But a few weeks ago, he was brought in after collapsing on the street. He didn't make it." Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. "And they're still waiting for him?" she whispered. The guard nodded. "Every night, they come here, hoping to see him again." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. These dogs weren't just strays. They were mourning. They had lost the only person who had ever truly cared for them. Determined to honor Charlie's memory, Emily took action. The next night, she brought out a blanket and food, sitting with the dogs as they waited. She reached out to local shelters, and soon, the hospital staff joined her, helping to find loving homes for the pack. One by one, the dogs were adopted, but even in their new homes, they never forgot Charlie. And neither did Emily. Because love, whether human or animal, never truly fades. For weeks, the sight had been haunting the hospital staff. Every night, without fail, a pack of dogs would gather outside the entrance, sitting silently under the dim glow of the streetlights. They never caused trouble, never barked aggressively, never begged for food. They just waited. At first, people ignored them. Some assumed they were strays looking for scraps. Others thought they were simply drawn to the warmth of the hospital's doors. But something about the way they sat, their eyes fixed on the entrance, unsettled Nurse Emily. She had worked at St. Mary's Hospital for nearly 8 years, but she had never seen anything like this. Every evening, as her shift ended, she would glance outside and see the same sad-eyed canines, their tails resting motionless on the cold pavement. One night, curiosity got the better of her. "Have you noticed those dogs?" she asked Marco, the security guard, as she signed out. Marco exhaled sharply, nodding.
"Yeah.
"They've been coming here for almost a month now. Just sitting there, staring at the doors like they're waiting for someone to come out. Do they ever leave? They disappear at dawn. But the next night, they're back. Same time, same place." A chill ran down Emily's spine. She had always been an animal lover, and there was something profoundly heartbreaking about their silent vigil. That night, instead of heading straight home, she stepped outside and walked toward them. The dogs perked up at her approach, but didn't move. Their eyes, so full of sadness and something else she couldn't quite place, watched her closely. She knelt and stretched out a hand. A golden retriever, old and limping, took a hesitant step forward. Emily stroked its head gently. "What are you waiting for?" she whispered. The dog whined softly and nuzzled her palm, then stepped back as if still on duty, still waiting for something or someone. A story of loss. The next day, Emily couldn't get the dogs out of her mind. She asked around the hospital, trying to uncover any connection. Then Marco told her the truth. "They belong to a man named Charlie," he said. "Homeless guy. Used to sleep near the alley behind the hospital. He took care of them like they were his kids. Fed them, played with them, even talked to them. He'd share whatever little food he had with them instead of eating himself." Emily's chest tightened. What happened to him? Marco sighed. A few weeks ago, he collapsed on the street. Someone brought him in, but he hesitated. He didn't make it. Heart failure. Emily felt like the wind had been knocked out of her. The dogs weren't just waiting for a random person. They were waiting for Charlie. They don't know he's gone, she murmured. No, Marco said quietly. They're waiting for him to come back. Emily looked out the glass doors. The dogs were there again, sitting in the same spots, looking expectantly inside. Her heart broke for them. That night, she brought out some food and water, sitting on the steps with them. One by one, the dogs approached, hesitantly at first. She whispered soothing words, running her fingers through their fur, and for the first time in weeks, some of them wagged their tails ever so slightly. She made it a routine. Every evening after her shift, she would sit with them, talk to them, and feed them. Slowly, they began to trust her. But the golden retriever, the oldest one, the one who seemed to be their leader, was different. He never wagged his tail, never played with the others. He only sat and stared at the hospital doors, as if willing Charlie to walk through them. It was this dog that worried Emily the most. The letter that changed everything. One stormy evening, Emily sat with the dogs, shielding them as best as she could with an umbrella. She was about to head home when she noticed a man watching from across the street. He was elderly, with weary eyes and a tattered coat. "Are you here for them?" Emily asked cautiously. The man nodded. "I knew Charlie," he said. "Name's Ben. We used to look out for each other on the streets." Emily's heart ached. They're still waiting for him. Ben sighed. He loved them more than anything. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Charlie wrote this a few days before he died. He asked me to give it to the person who might care for them. They ain't just stray dogs. They're my family. They kept me warm when I had nothing. They gave me love when no one else did. If I ain't around anymore, please don't let them be alone. Tell them I didn't leave them by choice. Tell them I loved them till my last breath. Charlie." Tears streamed down Emily's face. She looked at the dogs, their eyes still filled with quiet hope. "I'll take care of them," she whispered. A new beginning. Emily rallied the hospital staff. She reached out to local shelters. She did everything she could to ensure the dogs would be safe. One by one, they found homes. Some were adopted by doctors, nurses, even patients who had been touched by their loyalty. Emily took the letter, her hands trembling. She opened it and read the shaky handwriting. "To whoever finds my boys." All except for the golden retriever. He refused to leave the hospital steps. Emily knew what she had to do. She took him home. At first, he barely responded. He lay by the door, watching, waiting. But over time, he began to heal. He would rest his head on Emily's lap, follow her around, and on rare occasions, wag his tail just a little. One night, Emily sat beside him and whispered, "Charlie loved you. He wouldn't want you to wait forever. You're safe now." The golden retriever let out a deep sigh, then finally, laid his head against her. For the first time in weeks, he slept peacefully. And Emily knew, wherever Charlie was, he was smiling. For weeks, the hospital staff at St. Mary's had been noticing something unusual. Every night, as the last shift ended and the streets grew quieter, a group of dogs would gather outside the hospital entrance. They sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the glass doors, as if waiting for someone to come out. They never barked, never fought, never begged for food. They simply waited. At first, people ignored them, thinking they were just a pack of strays. But as time passed, even the most indifferent staff members started to feel uneasy. There was something different about these dogs, something almost human. A mystery begins. Nurse Emily had been working the night shift for years, but she had never seen anything like this. The dog's unwavering presence tugged at her heart. Every evening, when she left the hospital, she saw them sitting there, their eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite understand. She had asked around, but no one seemed to know why they were there. One night, as she stepped out, she couldn't help but approach them. The dogs perked up, but none of them moved toward her. They remained seated, their eyes locked on the hospital doors. She knelt down and whispered, "Who are you waiting for?" A golden retriever, older than the rest, let out a soft whimper. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. Something about this wasn't normal. Determined to find out more, she turned to Marco, the security guard. "Do you know anything about these dogs?" she asked. Marco hesitated before sighing. "Yeah, they belong to a homeless man. His name was Charlie." Emily's heart clenched. "Charlie?" Marco nodded. "He used to sleep near the back alley. He didn't have much, but he took care of these dogs like they were his own kids. He fed them, played with them, and in return, they never left his side." Emily felt her chest tighten. What happened to him? Marco exhaled sharply. "A few weeks ago, he collapsed on the street. Someone brought him in, but he didn't make it." Emily felt tears sting her eyes. "And they're still waiting for him?" she whispered. Marco nodded. "Every night. They haven't given up." Emily looked at the dogs, her heart breaking. That night, she made a decision. She wouldn't let them wait alone. A routine of love. Every night, Emily brought them food and water. She sat with them, speaking softly, letting them know they weren't alone. At first, they were hesitant, but over time, they began to trust her. Except for the golden retriever. Unlike the others, he never wagged his tail, never played. He only sat there, staring at the hospital doors, waiting. Emily named him Max. She reached out to local shelters, trying to find homes for the dogs. One by one, they were adopted. But Max refused to leave. She knew she couldn't let him stay out in the cold. So, she took him home. Max's pain. The first few days were tough. Max barely ate. He lay near the door, as if waiting for someone to knock. He refused to play with toys or sleep in a comfortable bed. Emily sat beside him every night, stroking his fur. One evening, as she whispered to him, she said, "Charlie loved you. He wouldn't want you to wait forever." Max let out a deep sigh and, for the first time, rested his head on her lap. It was a small step, but it meant everything. A letter from the past. Days turned into weeks. Then one day, an old man appeared at the hospital. His name was Ben, and he had been Charlie's closest friend. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a crumpled letter. Emily opened it, her hands shaking. "To whoever finds my boys, they ain't just stray dogs. They're my family. If I ain't around anymore, please don't let them be alone. Tell them I loved them till my last breath. Charlie." Tears streamed down Emily's face. She looked at Max, who was staring at her with quiet understanding. "You're not alone," she whispered. "Not anymore." Max wagged his tail, just once. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt hope. But the story wasn't over. One evening, as Emily and Max sat by the window, she noticed something strange. A man in a tattered coat was standing across the street. He was watching the hospital, his face hidden under a hood. Emily's heart pounded. Who was he? And why did Max suddenly start barking, his eyes filled with something Emily had never seen before? Recognition? For weeks, the hospital staff at St. Mary's had been puzzled by the presence of a group of dogs outside the hospital entrance. Every night, without fail, they gathered and sat in silence, watching the doors as if waiting for someone. They never barked, never at first. People ignored them. Some assumed they were stray dogs drawn to the warmth of the hospital or looking for food. But as days passed, even the busiest staff members couldn't help but notice. There was something different about these dogs. Their eyes weren't wild or hungry. They weren't aggressive. They were filled with a longing. It was a mystery, and Nurse Emily couldn't ignore it any longer. The discovery. Emily had always been an animal lover, but there was something about this particular group of dogs that unsettled her. Every night, when she finished her shift, she would look at them, wondering what they were waiting for. One evening, unable to hold back her curiosity, she stepped outside. As she approached, the dogs perked up slightly, their ears twitching. But they didn't come running to her. They simply sat there, eyes full of unspoken sorrow. She knelt down and whispered, "Who are you waiting for?" A golden retriever, older than the rest, let out a low, mournful whimper. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. That was no ordinary sound. It was grief. Determined to find answers, she turned to Marco, the hospital's security guard. "Do you know anything about these dogs?"
she asked.
Marco sighed, crossing his arms.
"Yeah."
They belonged to a homeless man named Charlie. Emily's heart clenched. "Charlie? He used to sleep near the alley behind the hospital," Marco continued. "Didn't have much, but he loved these dogs like family. Fed them before he fed himself." Emily swallowed hard. "What happened to him?" Marco exhaled sharply. "A few weeks ago, he collapsed on the street. Someone called an ambulance, and he was brought here. But he didn't make it." Emily's heart broke. "And they're still waiting for him?" She whispered. "Ran around. Never caused trouble. They just waited." Marco nodded. "Every night. Same time, same place." Emily turned to look at the dogs, her chest tightening. They didn't know. They still believed Charlie would come back. That night, she sat with them. She brought them food and water. She spoke softly, telling them they weren't alone. At first, they were hesitant, but slowly, they inched closer. All except the golden retriever. He remained in his spot, staring at the hospital doors, waiting. Emily's name,